Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of our favorite July 4th recipes. We've got a little bit of everything today: drink, appetizer, salad, entree, pasta salads, desserts, all kinds of yumminess. Any of these recipes would be perfect for your Independence Day celebration, if you need to take somewhere, or for any of the upcoming summer get-togethers, cookouts, barbecues, whatever you've got going on. All of these recipes are delicious. So let's get into today's video. First up is Chantilly Cake. The recipe will be in the description box below. Publix has a Chantilly cake and it's really, really good. And when I came across this recipe on Pinterest and I saw that it was like a kind of a copycat recipe of theirs, I was like, yes, I have to try this. So I made this for Father's Day and we all really enjoyed it. Let me show you the ingredients that you'll need. You'll need some strawberry preserves or jam, whichever you prefer. I believe the recipe also calls for raspberry, but I didn't have any raspberries, so I just used all strawberry. You'll need powdered sugar, some milk. The recipe recommends whole milk. I just had some of this 2%, so that's what I used. Some heavy whipping cream. You'll need some sort of cooking spray, baking spray, or butter to butter your pan. A classic white cake mix. You'll need some vanilla extract, almond extract, some mascarpone cheese, and this was the first time I ever cooked with this, and we enjoyed it. You'll need some cream cheese that has been softened. You'll need eggs, and then you'll need some berries for garnish. You could use really whatever your favorite berries are. I'm using strawberries, blueberries, and blackberries. Raspberries would also be good with this. I have the oven preheating to 350 degrees. Now, don't be intimidated by this recipe. It is a couple different steps, but these steps are really, really easy. So I promise you, you can absolutely do this. You're basically just doctoring up a cake mix. In this bowl, I have some butter. I've melted it and then I've let it cool slightly. I'm then going to add in my box of cake mix and then the milk and then the eggs. And then I am going to beat this for about 2 minutes or until the batter is nice and smooth. I'm then going to place my batter into a greased baking dish. I'm using a 9x13 here. You could do that. You could also bake these into round layers. That would be good as well. Then I'm going to place this into the oven and bake this for about 20 to 30 minutes. It just depends on your oven, and it also really depends on the size of baking dish and the kind of baking dish that you use. So if you use a glass baking dish, it might take a little bit longer, but you just want to bake this until a toothpick inserted into the center of the cake comes out clean. Once my cake was done, I let it cool slightly for about 10 minutes. And then in this bowl here, I have my strawberry preserves. I've microwaved this for about 45 seconds until it's a little bit runny. And I'm going to pour that over the cake, and using the spoon, I'm just going to spread that out. And then I'm going to allow this to cool completely. Next, we're going to make a whipped cream. In this mixing bowl, I'm going to add in the cream, the vanilla extract, and the almond extract, and then I'm going to whip that until it reaches stiff peaks. Once the whipped cream was done, I moved it to a separate bowl and set it aside for a few moments. And in this same mixing bowl, I'm going to add in the softened cream cheese, then the mascarpone cheese. And like I said, I hadn't used this before, but we enjoyed it. And I was worried I wouldn't be able to find this, but I just found it at my local Walmart doing grocery pickup. Then I'm going to add the powdered sugar and beat this until it's nice and smooth. Next, I'm going to fold my whipped cream gently into the cream cheese mixture. And you want to do this, like I said, gently. You want to make sure that it's well combined, but you also don't want to overbeat it and take out all of the air that you just put into the whipped cream. So as soon as you don't see any more streaks of either whipped cream or the cream cheese mixture, go ahead and stop. Then I'm going to take that whipped cream cheese mixture and place this on top of the cake. Now, I will say this. I did this as a 9x13, like I said, and I had a lot of icing left. So if you're doing a 9x13, you might want to cut back on the icing a little bit, maybe cut it in half. We really did have a lot left over. If you're doing a layered cake, though, I would say go ahead and make the full amount of the icing for this recipe. Now, the recipe then says to place the berries on top and then refrigerate this. I decided to go ahead and refrigerate it after I iced it. I made this the day before Father's Day, so I placed this into the refrigerator and allowed it to cool overnight. And then right before serving on Father's Day, I added my berries. And there's really no rhyme or reason to this. You can just add them as you see. The OCD in me couldn't stand this first row of strawberries being the opposite direction of the other ones. I am not a decorator, but I just placed the strawberries and the other berries on there as best as I could. And then that's it. It's ready to serve. And you want to make sure that you keep this chilled. But this was really delicious. It was so good. The icing, my dad and my little sister thought that it tasted like cheesecake. And I have to agree with them, but this was so yummy. Next, I'm going to make a spaghetti pasta salad. I got this recipe years and years ago from a lady that I used to work with. She brought this to a work potluck and gave me the recipe. I've long since lost her original recipe, but I've made it so many times over the years that I just kind of know it by heart, and I just eyeball everything. And then I also switch it up using, whatever it is that I have on hand. But I will do my best to find a recipe so you have exact measurements, and I'll link it down in the description box below. But feel free to customize this based on what you and your family like and based on whatever you have on hand. Here are the ingredients that you'll need. You'll need some Italian dressing. Just use your favorite. The next ingredient is kind of the secret ingredient for this salad. This is the McCormick Perfect Pinch Salad Supreme Seasoning. This makes the salad. It's so good. I just get this in the regular grocery store with the seasonings. But if you can't find this, just Google like Salad Supreme copycat recipe. There are those out there, and I've used them in the past, and they're pretty darn close. Then you'll need some spaghetti. Now, I know this is called a spaghetti pasta salad, but honestly, a lot of times I'm a rebel and I don't use spaghetti. I use rotini, but just use whatever you have on hand. Then you'll need some cheddar cheese that you will cut into cubes, some bell pepper, cucumber, pepperoni, and then some cherry tomatoes. To get started, I'm going to cook my spaghetti according to the package instructions. I then drained it and rinsed it with cold water, and I've placed it into this bowl. And then I'm just going to add the rest of the ingredients. So I'm going to add my pepperoni. You could also use salami. I've also used the mini pepperonis in this before. That's also really good. Then I'm going to chop up the bell pepper. Then I'm going to add my cucumber. I just peel it and then seed it and cut it into chunks. Then I'm going to add in my cheddar cheese. And honestly, I just use whatever cheese I have on hand. I've actually even used, the string cheese. I've even chopped that up and put this in here before. So like I said, just use whatever you have on hand. I'm adding my cherry tomatoes. Again, I've just sliced those in half. Then I'm going to add in my Italian dressing. And once this sits for a little while, you may need to add a little bit more dressing. Then I'm going to add this Salad Supreme seasoning. I'm going to stir that until it's well combined, and I decided to add some grated Parmesan cheese, so I'm going to add a little bit of that, stir that again, cover this with a lid, and pop this into the refrigerator for a couple hours. You could eat it now, but it's really best if you give it a little bit of time for all the flavors to come together, and then that's it. This would be perfect for a cookout or a get-together or potluck this summer. If you take this, everyone will love it. And I know I said this earlier, but again, make this yours. If you'd like to add some diced red onion, that would be good. A lot of times when I make this, I'll take some marinated artichoke hearts, drain those, chop those up, and add that. And then my husband, he loves olives. I don't like them. If you like olives, that would be good in here. But for his portion, before I serve it to him, I always take a little bit out and add in some black olives and stir that for him because, again, he likes that. And then here are the plates. Tonight, we just had this with some pulled pork sandwiches. This made a really yummy side dish. Next up, I'm going to make red, white, and blue punch. Now, you could do this in a big punch bowl. I'm going to do individual servings this day, though. Here's what I'm going to use to make it. You can feel free to substitute, use whatever you and your guests prefer or what you've got on hand. So first up, you're going to need some kind of like light-colored soda. I've got Sprite. You could also do 7-Up, Sierra Mist, whatever you prefer. And then for the red part, I'm going to use some of the red Hawaiian punch and then blue Gatorade. But again, use whatever red and blue beverages you all prefer. Now, you also are going to need an ice cube tray. I like to use the silicone ones. I just feel like they're easier to pop out. And if you happen to have like star shapes, I think that would be super cute. Let me show you how to put this together really easy, super quick. All right, I laid my silicone ice cube tray on a little baking sheet. You don't have to do that, but I just feel like it's easier to put in and out of the freezer. And then I poured my Gatorade and punch into a little measuring cup to make it easier to pour into the ice cubes. And if you over pour like I did here, no worries, just take a little paper towel, wipe off the excess. So once I've got the red Gatorade poured in, I'm then going to add in the red punch. I'm going to add in the blue Gatorade, and then that's it. You're just going to want to freeze these for a few hours until they're good and solid. To serve this up, I'm using some of these little stemless hard plastic wine glasses. Use whatever glasses you prefer, or like I said, if you're doing this for a party, you could use a big punch bowl. So I had my Sprite just at room temperature. Next time I make this though, I would have it chilled, but it really doesn't matter. You can do chilled or room temperature. But you just want to add your ice cubes and then top it off with your soda. That's it. What did I tell you? Super easy. And this was actually a yummy little punch. I wasn't sure about the Hawaiian punch and the blue Gatorade, but it was good. So I recommend you all give this a try. And again, use whatever red and blue beverages you prefer. Next up, we're going to make American flag layered taco dip. Now, you can use your favorite taco dip recipe. I'm using my Aunt Sue's recipe. I've shared it before on my channel. I shared it in my Hocus Pocus video. I'll link that video down below. I turned her taco dip into Billy Butcherson's graveyard for Hocus Pocus. It was really cute, so I'll link that down below. But here are the ingredients we're going to use for her taco dip. First up, you need some taco seasoning, sour cream, mayonnaise, tortilla chips, and I'm opting for blue corn ones today just to be festive, but you can use whatever chips or crackers or vegetables you prefer. We've got some sliced black olives, bean dip, some tomatoes, green onions, guacamole, and you can totally use homemade to make it easy on myself though today. I'm just using store-bought, some salsa, shredded cheese. Normally for this dip I use either cheddar or a Mexican blend, but for today I'm going to use Monterey Jack cheese, and you'll see why shortly. And then normally that's all I use for her taco dip, but today I'm going to take a little bit of, you need some kind of white cheese. I had some provolone cheese on hand, and then I've got a little star-shaped cookie cutter. All right, let's put this together. We're going to start by making our sour cream layer. So to a small bowl, I'm going to add in the sour cream. You could totally use just like plain Greek yogurt if you prefer to do that. We're next going to add in some mayonnaise and then taco seasoning, and that's it for this layer. We're going to stir that until it's really well combined and set that to the side. And a quick note, I forgot to mention, I did have Aunt Sue's recipe, by the way. So I've got a 9x9 baking dish here. I like to serve it in a glass baking dish just so you can see the different layers. It really doesn't matter. Use whatever baking dish you like. So I'm going to add a layer of the bean dip to the bottom. And I am layering it differently today than Aunt Sue's recipe called for. But there's a reason. And again, you'll see afterwards. You'll see at the end. So next, I'm just going to add on the guacamole. Once I've added the guacamole, I'm going to add on the salsa and spread that out. Next, I'm going to add a layer of chopped green onions, and totally feel free to make this dip your own. You could add chopped bell peppers, chopped onions. You could add like browned up taco meat. Just use whatever you like. I'm going to add the sour cream layer after I've added those green onions, and I'm just going to spread that out. Next, I'm going to add my shredded cheese. Now, in the American flag, we've got red and white stripes. And so that's why I wanted to use the Monterey Jack cheese, is so that I already had my white stripes down on my dip. So next we're going to take those sliced black olives, and I am just going to make a little square of the olives in the upper left hand corner to symbolize like the blue part on the American flag. I know the black olives are black and not really blue, but hey, it's fine. I'd rather have the black olives and then not be the right color than to like put blueberries on here. That would just be weird. So next I'm going to add some of the little stars that I cut out of the provolone cheese. There was no way I could do, 50 stars, so I just did 5 stars. It's fine. It still looks cute. So finally, I'm going to take my diced up Roma tomatoes and add those for the red stripes, and then that is it. Is this not cute? To serve it up, I just placed it onto a platter and then spread some of those blue corn tortilla chips around it, and this is super cute, and it is a tasty little taco dip. I recommend you all give this a try. We're going to make some super easy Patriotic ice cream sandwiches. You're not going to believe how easy this is. You just need 2 things. We're going to use some ice cream sandwiches. Use your favorite brand. I'm using the mini ones. And then you'll need some festive sprinkles. I just got these at Walmart. So to make these, I'm going to empty the sprinkles onto a plate. And then you're going to unwrap your ice cream sandwiches and dip the sides into the sprinkles. How easy is that, as Ina Garden says? So I'm going to put those onto a platter, and then they're ready to serve. You can totally make these ahead and place them back into the freezer until you're ready to serve them up. These would be great to make up and have in the freezer ready for the kids while they're playing or while everybody's watching and setting off fireworks. Super quick and easy and cute. We're making hot dog sparklers. These are basically just jazzed up pigs in a blanket. I got this idea off of Pinterest. I will link one of the recipes down in the description box below for you. To make these really easy, we just need 3 ingredients pretty much. So we have a can of crescent roll dough. Now, if you could find the crescent roll sheet, that would be easier. I couldn't find it, so I'm just going to use the crescent roll dough and pinch it together. Next, you'll need some hot dogs. Use your favorite kind, your favorite brand. You could also do this using brats or smoked sausage links. And then for the cheese, use whatever kind you've got on hand or what you prefer. I would kind of stick with a yellow cheese to go with the sparkler theme. So here I've got some mild cheddar. And then to assemble these, you're going to need some wooden skewers as well as a star cookie cutter. You'll want to preheat your oven according to your crescent roll dough instructions. Now we're going to take one of the skewers and just stick that in the hot dog, and just be careful you don't want to poke yourself. Once we've got that skewered, and you want to leave a little bit of the skewer out of the top of the hot dog, as you can see here, that way we can put our star on it later. So now we are going to take a strip of that crescent roll dough, and that's why I said the sheet would be a little easier, because you don't have to pinch the dough together, but this will work, no problem. You just want to pinch the edges together. And so once we get a strip of that crescent roll dough, we're just going to wrap it around just like I'm doing here, and then that's pretty much it. We're going to lay these on a baking sheet. I did spray this with some cooking spray. You could also use parchment paper. Now, if you are using hot dogs or something like that, these will be fine in the oven, but if you're using brats or some kind of sausage that isn't cooked in advance, you'll want to cook that and let it cool slightly before you wrap it in the crescent roll dough. But because hot dogs are already cooked, we're just going to bake these according to the instructions on our crescent roll dough, and once they are golden brown, then we'll set those to the side, and I'm going to let them cool slightly. So for the cheese, I'm going to cut up this cheese just in kind of a thicker slice, and then take my little cookie cutter and cut out one of these star shapes and set those to the side. And just a quick note, I said earlier that this was mild cheddar. It's sharp cheddar, but it really doesn't matter. Like I said, just use whatever cheese you got on hand or what you prefer. So once I've got my little cheese stars, I'm going to carefully add those to the top of the skewer, and then that's it. Aren't these adorable? I just laid these out on a plate. I saw some things on Pinterest where they put it into like a glass holding like rice or something, so it looked like the sparklers you were standing up. I saw some ideas show these laid down like on Patriotic themed hot dog holders, but either way, just laid out plain on a platter like this. These are super cute. You can serve these with your favorite dipping sauces like ketchup, mustard. We like ours with barbecue sauce. And yeah, these were tasty little pigs in a blanket, and Gary said that he thought these would be really good with like a cheddar brat or jalapeno cheddar brat, and I agree with him. So I'm definitely going to make these again, but use a cheddar or jalapeno cheddar sausage. Next, we're going to do a spinach and berry salad. I'll have the recipe linked in the description box below for you. I did not follow the recipe for the dressing. I had this container of poppy seed dressing in my fridge that I really needed to use up. So instead of making the homemade dressing, I'm using this, but you can totally follow the dressing and the recipe. Next, we're going to need some spinach, sliced almonds, crumbled feta, some strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries. Let me show you how to assemble this. To my salad bowl, I'm going to add in my baby spinach, and then I decided to mix the spinach and the dressing together, so I'm adding a little bit of dressing. I'm going to take some tongs and mix that really well together, and I think arugula would go really nicely with the spinach. I think it would be a nice peppery bite with the sweetness from the fruit and the dressing. So Once I tossed that together, I wanted to add a little bit more spinach, so I've done that. And then we are going to add in the strawberries. I sliced these. Next, I'm going to add in the blueberries as well as the raspberries. So we've got our red and our blue. And now for the white part, we're going to add in some crumbled feta as well as sliced almonds. You could also do slivered almonds or leave the almonds out altogether. And then that's it. That's the salad. Quick and easy, like I said. And this is the first time I've had a like spinach and strawberry salad. I know, they're common and pretty popular. I've just never had it before. I wasn't sure how I'd like it, but I really loved this salad. The berries with the feta and the dressing, it was really good, and Gary loved it as well. So I recommend that you give this a try. And this is a great, side dish to make either for your own July 4th celebration or if you're taking it somewhere. Sometimes with July 4th and other holidays in the summer, we get a lot of heavy sides, potato salad, pasta salad. So this is a lighter side, but it's still really flavorful and delicious. Last but not least, we need something sweet. These are vanilla pudding cookies. I will have the recipe down below, of course, for you. Here are the ingredients that I'm going to use. First up, for our vanilla pudding cookies, we need some vanilla pudding mix. You could use your favorite brand. I've got some salt, some granulated sugar, brown sugar, all-purpose flour, vanilla extract, egg, butter, some baking soda, and then the recipe calls for chocolate chips. I've got some mini chocolate chips I'm going to use today, but to kind of go with the 4th of July patriotic theme, I'm also going to add in some of these red, white, and blue M&Ms. Really, you could add, different like toffee bits or nuts to these cookies. You could add white chocolate chips, whatever you prefer. To mix these up, and these are so easy, you don't need a hand mixer or a stand mixer or anything like that. Like I said, these are so easy to put together. In this bowl, we're going to add our dry ingredients. So we're going to add in the flour, the baking soda. I'm also going to add in the salt and then give that a really good whisk until it's well incorporated. Now, a couple quick notes. You'll want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and I have the recipe. These cookies, y'all, these are so good. I'm not a big cookie fan. I'm not a big desserts fan in general, to be honest, but these cookies are delicious. I will say, though, if you prefer a thin, crispy cookie, I don't think you'll prefer these. These are more soft, they're thicker, they're just delicious. I set the dry ingredients to the side. In this bowl, I added the butter, popped it in the microwave to melt. I added in the granulated sugar, the brown sugar, and that vanilla pudding mix. Once that's well combined, I'm going to add in the egg, followed by the vanilla extract. Give that another good whisk. And like I said, you do not need to pull out a hand mixer or a stand mixer. You can, but y'all, it's so easy. Just save yourself the dishes and the extra effort. So now I'm going to add in the dry ingredients, the chocolate chips, and the M&Ms. I'm going to give that a stir. Now, the recipe says that you can refrigerate this dough. I haven't, and I made these several times, and they come out delicious and perfect. So I just skipped that step. You, of course, can do it if you like. I've got some parchment paper. I'm going to scoop out the cookies, and then these are going to go into the preheated oven and bake for about 8 to 10 minutes or so until the edges start to brown slightly. You'll pull these out and then let them cool for about 10 minutes on the cookie sheet. Transfer them to a wire rack and then let them cool completely. Now, you do want to store these in an airtight container, and like I said, these are so good. They are delicious. And I forgot to mention, I did add some blue sprinkles just to be a little festive on some of the cookies. You can totally skip that. All right, that is it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.